it from one kind of large advertiser who had a reason to want to reach the community. And then we just put out that first issue and put it in the mail and mailed it into every home in the city and every home and business. And the first story was about the Lane Park. Like it was kind of controversial 10 years ago, some of the plans that ended up changing. We put that on the cover, mailed it into every home. I got it and went in and slid one in the door at the Chamber of Commerce, because I went in one day where they weren't open and came back and said, "Hey, I'm Dan. I published the paper." And then we started going from there.
That's called guerrilla marketing, right?
Yeah. And then the very next day after that issue came out, one day after it, the director of the Homewood Chamber of Commerce called me and said, "Hey, will you come publish a paper in Homewood? This community really needs, a local paper." And I said, "Well, give me a little time. Let me break even on the one that started yesterday," because I'm still not real highly capitalized.
Right. Man, what a story. There's so much what I love about this. You go to business school, and a business school professor is going to tell you to start a business, you need this huge formal business plan. You need to have financing in place, access to even more capital, and all this, high level stuff with KPIs that follow. And I'm sure all that is in place today. But the reality is a lot of business owners that really make it, a business professor is going to tell every student what I'm about to say to not listen to me. But, I don't know if planning is as important as doing. And so you're out there and you're doing. And I think having a sales background probably helped you, that you could go in there and you could bat some eyes and say, "Hey, I got this great idea. You should believe in me." And people believed in you and they took a chance and it's worked out for everyone. But I guess what I'm saying is planning is critical. I'm not saying just jump into the pond without having any kind of plan, but don't plan too much. Just go, because sometimes the emotion, the passion that you have can get drained by all the research and all the planning that goes out there. And again, every entrepreneur that's in business school right now is going to think I'm crazy for saying that. But it's been my life, and it's been the life of a lot of other entrepreneurs I've lived as well. Planning and doing are both important.
Yeah, that they are, and the execution, is essential in it. But you definitely have to plan. But it's kind of like when I said that, well, if my model won't work here in Mountain Brook, it won't work. Like I knew this was the perfect test market. I'm like, so I'm going to start a paper here. I don't mind. I mean, I hadn't taken really a lot of risk on the other one because I didn't start it, and it was just kind of the best option I had at the time. And again, that was 2008, so it was an interesting time in the economy, to say the least. But so when I started in 2010, started Village Living in Mountain Brook, I knew I'm like if this thing works, this thing can work. If it doesn't, probably need to do something,
Well, you don't know this.
Approach it a different way.
But so I've been fortunate in my life to be featured in a bunch of magazines, been lucky to be on even TV. I've been on the cover of a couple of industry trade magazines, a lot of cool stuff. I'm very proud of that. However, my little boy was on the cover about a year ago in one of your newspapers. And that picture, he's in a football, he's with some football guys, and that picture's still hanging up in our kitchen. So
that's awesome.
That's more important than anything else we've had as a family.
That's great.
Which I think speaks to the appeal of it. It's a community newspaper. You see the pictures that you see are people people who are writing the stories are also people that and that creates this bond that you probably don't see when you're talking about a large newspaper that covers a metropolitan area.
Yeah, and we're the only outlet that does a lot of the things that we do. And a lot of these communities, we're the only outlet that's going to go to the municipal meetings, to the city council meeting every week and cover that. And so if you want to know what's going on, and follow that, you really are going to need to follow it from us. And if we write a story about something that happens, that something a little more controversial is going to happen at the next meeting in 2 weeks or next month or whatever, then every outlet in the city will show up for that, 3 times a year. But right. We're there all the time. And that's something we take a lot of pride in. And then obviously just telling the story of the communities. I mean, there's so many amazing people in these communities and so many feature stories. Somebody asked me when I was first starting Village Living, they said, "Well, how are you going to have enough stories about, to fill up a publication every month?" I mean, we're only printing once a month. And I'm like, well, there's, 25,000 residents, there's 25,000 stories, and they've all got a second story. So that's 50,000 stories. So
There you go.
I think we're good.
Well, so things are really good, right? So there was a lot of evolution, a lot of growth in your business early on, but that growth has never really stopped. It sounds like as you've grown, you've really embraced both the old world of publishing and even this new world of publishing that we see today on the digital side. So how did that conversion come about?
Yeah, well, I started after we had, I guess 5 or 6 of the papers open. I realized our largest competitor was no other publication, but it was an industry. It's digital marketing. And people ask me, they say, well, who's your competitor? I say, well, we really don't have any competitors because nobody does exactly what we do. But on the other hand, you're competing for marketing and advertising dollars with everything that's out there. And so, your competitor is digital marketing. So I started exploring that in 2016 or so, and started, I'm very much a curious, venturesome learner, so I want to go out and find out what I can find out. So I started that in 2016, and we actually bought a building here in downtown Homewood. Not the one I'm in, but the other one in 2015. And we're getting ready to renovate it. And we're going to put in some video and podcasting space in some of our space there, because we had a tenant that just moved out. And I wish we were already in it, because I was like kind of scrambling around. I'm sitting here with my, my first version Apple headphones. But anyway, we bought a building in 2015, and it was a great buy, great acquisition for us. And it's, it's good to be the tenant and the landlord if you can swing it. And, but then in 2016, the building 2 doors over from us came up for sale. And I mean, again, we're downtown Homewood. So I'm like, this is, good place to buy. And I thought, well, I'll just walk down there and we'll take that building, and then we'll make that our space for our digital marketing agency. And so that's where I am right now. But so we really started exploring that in 2016 and started taking on clients, I think, in the summer of 2016.
Wow. What a story. Guys, anybody listening to this needs to hear what just happened here. Dan started with $10 without any industry experience, really no formal training in the industry, all with just a mindset that there was an opportunity and he would go seize it. And he's built that $10 investment into a substantial, really significant empire now that encompasses everything from property management to publishing. That's a heck of a story. That's the American dream, So great job, Dan. And I'm proud of you as a friend. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I remember when you and I met sitting at Loco's watching that dismal performance in 2009 at Mississippi State. I think that was 2009, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've raced that football season from my memories.
Well, the thing I remember about that, I think the next week was the trip to Boulder, to Colorado.
That's correct.
That was on that same run, and I went on that trip. And other than the game, that AJ Green one-handed, left-handed catch was pretty cool. And then the rest of that trip was a pretty fun road trip.
So everyone in Birmingham, just stop listening. They don't want UGA talk here.
Sorry about that.
Well, what I want to know is some of the things that you learned along the way, because every entrepreneur, from Steve Jobs to Dan Starnes, it all looks great from the outside looking in, but we all know when you live the life of an entrepreneur, there's plenty of mistakes, there's plenty of failures, and there's a lot of things that we can learn from those things, and we do learn from those things. And so I would love to talk about some of those things. I know that the glory side of the business is what we usually kind of focus on, but I want to kind of talk about the other side that most people never talk about. So let's go back to 2008, and you still got the same spirit, the same zeal, the same passion for what you're about to build. But now that you've been through this, you've been doing this for 13 years now. Yeah. What's one thing you would do differently that you wish you had done back in those early days?
I would say, here's a book called The E-Myth Revisited.
Oh, you're speaking my language.
Read this and do this. And so, execution's great and action's great, but doing it with intent can be really helpful. And the lessons from that book can And I mean, I hate to admit this. I only found that like in the last couple of years, and it's hard. Like once you have a whole lot of things in motion, you have people and revenue and customers and everything going, and you start trying to change process or like implement process and get things the way you want them to be. It's a lot harder than if you just start out repeating,
Well, so for anyone that has not read it, I've been fortunate to have the chance to read it as well. It's kind of like in our world, the franchising industry is sort of the Bible for the franchise industry.
Yep.
And I just said everyone in Birmingham went to sleep when we started talking about Georgia football. You may go to sleep when I tell you what this book's about as well. It's about system and process. So if you can imagine a book about system and process being not just educational, but very entertaining. It actually, instead of it being a raw textbook, it builds sort of a story inside of it about a bakery. And so I agree with you, Dan. It's a great book. The bottom line message is if you don't have systems, if you don't have process, eventually the business is going to die. That's what we see every day. The SBA years ago put together a study, and they followed these businesses along a 5-year journey, and 80% of the businesses failed within 5 years, which is not that, shocking. But here's the shocking part for me. The majority of those, 90% of those 80% failed in years 2 through 5. So a lot of people have passion early on. They have heart, right? And they go with the gusto and they get through those first 12 months. But systems and process start to be required at some point beyond just passion and heart. And that's when businesses truly topple and fail. So I agree, man. That's the best book that anybody could read when they want to start a business.
I got a postcard recently in the mail, and it was this kid. He's in college, and he's like, he started this auto detailing business, and he's sending direct mail postcards, and he's like a senior in college, and I'm like, I want to know this guy. You know what I mean? Like, like, let me meet this guy. This is unique. And so I reach out and meet him, see, I'm thinking, can I hire him? Is there a possibility for that? And I start talking to him like, all right, here's what you should do. Read the E-Myth Revisited, because anybody starting out in business needs to get those concepts. And, we've served so many small businesses and meet so many people in small business. But I mean, it is real. It is going on. People are in a business that they love and they built, and that scene they describe in there where the woman making the pies is just like burned out, doesn't know where to go, where to turn.
Right.
Like they're, and I mean, I don't want to paint the picture that everything we've done has been right and successful, because I was sitting in the same building a little more than a year ago going, oh no, this is how it ends. I mean, it was scary because almost all of our customers, not all, but half or more were small business brick and mortar. And it was like, we're all terrified at that point, and I was telling my sales team, I'm like, look, you get on the phone, you have nothing to sell, but you need to talk to these people, because they're scared and they need to hear from somebody that cares. So up your call volume, and you're not selling anything.
One of the best pieces of advice I ever heard and received was nothing great ever came out of being comfortable. Right. So if you're going to build something great, you're going to have to be very uncomfortable, maybe for a long time. In order for that great product, that great service to materialize down the road, which, by the way, is a great segue, because I love leadership quotes and advice, and it just really stimulates me. So I'm going to kind of throw you for a curveball here and just kind of ask you some questions if you're cool with that. So
definitely.
Of all the books you've read, I know you're a conference goer as well, minus COVID life, and so you've heard a lot of great speakers, read a lot of books, maybe listened to a lot of podcasts. If you could put all those things together, what's one piece of advice, specifically leadership advice, that you would love to share with the audience here today?
Well, for me, I don't know if this is specific advice anybody gave me, but when you're in a challenging situation like that, or if you're anything, like how are you going to get better? What are you going to learn from it? What are you going to improve? And I can do that even with good things, that I can frustrate people when they want to show me something good, and I look at it, I'm like, how that could be better? And they're like, well, I wanted to let's celebrate the win instead of saying how it could be better. But, really especially in the difficult times, how is this going to make me better? And that was some really good mentoring I got last year, because again, when the shutdown happened, it was scary for all businesses. But I think particularly if you were a brick and mortar or had that was a huge part of your, makeup. It was, which for us, it was a lot of our customer base. And it was like, okay, this is going to be a grind for a little bit. This is going to be really hard. And, what are we going to learn for it? How are we going to get better? And so, that's to me, that's a really important lesson.
I think that is almost the definition of entrepreneurship. There's all sorts of wins in an entrepreneur's life, but I'm just going to be honest. Most true entrepreneurs never realize those wins. Because they're on to the next battle. What's next? Okay. And that's good. And it's probably a little bit of bad too. We all do need to celebrate some victories every now and then. All right. So the people listening to the show are aspiring entrepreneurs around the Birmingham area. Maybe some people are inside the business. Maybe they're in their first several weeks to months and they're questioning themselves. Or if they've never opened, they're still questioning themselves. Everybody watches Shark Tank and everybody wants to be Mark Cuban, right? But the effort to get there, the investment required to get there is significant. How do you know, as a successful entrepreneur now, how do you know if you got what it takes?
That's a really great question. I think, I don't really think you do know. Honestly, I don't know if I have what it takes. You know what I mean? I think you have to, I think what you have to know is you have a commitment to do the work, and you have to understand that it's not an easy road. It's probably not going to feel, like glory, maybe ever.
Right.
I mean, I've got a friend and mentor who helps me a lot, a guy named Ryan Dice at Austin, Texas. And he speaks on a lot of big stages and all this stuff. And he likes to say, when people say, well, what about that fear I get that like, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm going to fail, or, it's not going to work. And he said, it never goes away. So you do it anyway. Like that's what it is.
Right.
So.
When I was going through my early days, and I'm hopefully not putting words in your mouth here, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I bet when you were going through your early days as well, as painful, as scary, as risky as those days were, it was one of the funnest times of my life. Everything was so big, all the dreams were all in front of us, and there's still a bunch of dreams in front of us, but man, they were so big in front of us and they seemed so far away. I think that's probably one character trait. If it's not fun, that's called work.
Right.
Don't do those things. Do things that create joy and happiness, even when you're losing money. Right.
Right. I remember being in Park Lane Apartments, and this is like you brought up some nostalgia, and we didn't know how to lay out the papers. We didn't know how to plan the papers. Had no idea what we're doing, and we had poster boards and like sticky notes that we started using to like represent the stories and the ads and stuff. And we're like figuring out the system that we thought was just like, groundbreaking, revolutionary. Like it was stuff people had did like, 400 years ago. And now we have, there's software that does that. We could have had it then. I just was too dumb to know about it. But yeah, and it was like just figuring it out was so like exciting.
Yeah. That's so cool. All right. So I love Birmingham. It's become, a home for me. I didn't know a whole lot about it when we relocated our family here. My wife's from here, but this was a complete foreign city to me. It's turned out to be one of the bigger, I think, secrets to my success, residing here and building a business right here in the Birmingham metro area. And so, again, this is really an audience comprised of Birmingham entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. What are your thoughts on the Birmingham entrepreneurial scene? Do you feel the same kind of spirit that I see across the community?
I do. Yeah, it's great. It's really cool to see the momentum in recent years of the entrepreneurial scene, and see people like yourself be successful and launch a national component to your business. And I feel like it's just really hot, and there's a lot of momentum and a lot of people that are behind it. So it's awesome. It's very cool to see.
Right. There's so many people in this local area that in some cases have built brands, national brands, highly recognized brands. In other cases, there are a lot of folks who are really trying to do that, and talking to those two different segments is always fun. So that's one recommendation I have anyone listening right now. If you don't have the time to read a book, you at least have the time to LinkedIn request an entrepreneur in the Birmingham area. Try to set up a time to, if the worst case, have a Zoom call. And learning from people that have already walked down that road is critical. So you've got a lot of those folks here in the Birmingham area. So feel free to do that, and it costs you nothing. It's literally free. All right. So I want to talk about you and where you're going. You've done so much in the last 13 years, and if you stop right now, you could literally write a book about it. It's been that cool story. But where do you see yourself going forward? Where is Starnes Media 10 years from now?
That's a great question. 10 years, I mean, if you think about that, I've heard somebody say recently, the world is changing now at the fastest rate it ever has and the slowest it ever will again. And
that's a good point.
I don't know if that's true, but it may be true. I mean, things are moving fast, and 10 years is way out. And we have a business we haven't even discussed today that's a big part of our story. I told you that one of the big catalysts for us was in 2009 when Allison, who was my girlfriend at the time, new girlfriend at the time, brought me this paper and said, it kind of started wheels in motion. Now we're married, have a 6-year-old son. And we have another business called Clearview Strategy Partners, where we help people hiring and management of people. And so we're in behavioral analytics. And she has been such a huge, huge part of our story. And that business, we've only had that for a couple of years, and we're a certified partner of a company called the Predictive Index. And there's a lot of different tools out there people can use, but we used those in our business for 5 years or so before we went into business offering it for others, and we found such value in it. But she's the fastest growing partner they have and has 100% retention. And it's a really cool part of our business. But if I look out where we're going to be in 10 years, I know, there's so many growth opportunities. The hard part is, choosing the ones to pursue. I know media will continue to change and evolve. Digital advertising will continue to change and evolve. With more AI becoming a component of it, a lot of things that people are doing right now with Google ads are, Google's going to pull a lot of stuff in that they want to make it so easy for the end user just to drop their credit card in. But I know that, community is going to be a part of what we're doing, whatever the media mode looks like. And I know small business will be a part of it, helping small business. And really, when it comes to marketing, I've spent a lot of time and a lot of energy in this field and learning from others, really unique, smart people. And the thing that I found when I really started going down that road is the marketing's not about the tech. It's not about the platforms and all that stuff. It's about moving your customers through a customer journey. And that ain't ever going to change no matter what happens with the technology. And so that's really, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's so hard to see 10 years out. I know a lot of things that we will be in. I know that I want to take it, one of my goals this year for 2021 is to plant a flag outside of greater Birmingham. And they've got a few different things I'm working on in ways that might look. So I hope to, we're halfway through the year, so I hope to be able to get that done. But, I think what we do is unique and special. And I think, anywhere you go, there are communities, there's small businesses, and there's people that want to know about their communities. So there's, I think the sky's the limit.
I do. If the last 13 years are any indication, then the sky is the limit, because you've built a tremendous business, a real empire across multiple segments that really is the American dream. So I'm proud to be a fellow entrepreneur here locally in Birmingham. For anyone that wants to connect with you, anyone wants to learn more about you, maybe even work with you, feel free to share contact information here with everyone.
Sure. LinkedIn is an easy place to find me, and Dan Starnes on LinkedIn. And then dan@starnesmedia.com is my email address. You can shoot me an email, or if you even want to text me at 205-370-0732. I'm happy to connect. I often respond.
All right, Dan. Well, thanks for today. Thanks for also snapping a photo of my son. That's become a great memory for us. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Ron.
You bet. All right. You have a great day, and I can't wait to talk to you again whenever you build the next Empire.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.